Welcome to Aligned with Kel Quarrel, the podcast where we talk all things small business. It's a mix of mindset, empowerment, real conversations, and of course, alignment. I'm your host, Kel Quarrel, a businesswoman with close to 20 years of business experience. Get ready for a mix of solo deep dives and inspiring interviews with awesome guests who will share how they have aligned their businesses with the lives they love. Let's dive in to align your business with the life you've always wanted. Welcome to another episode of Aligned with Kel Quarrel. I am so excited because today I am joined by my friend and incredible businesswoman, Dr. Allie Young. So welcome, Allie.
Thanks for having me, Kel. I am very, very pumped to be here today.
I'm so excited to have you. Allie is actually in her 22nd year of being a chiropractor. She's also the founder of the Disruption Society and the Health Business Institute, which is a whole, it's a beautiful online space where Allie can bring her business strategy to women in chiropractic. Do you call them practices? Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm very excited to kind of talk to you more about your business journey, Al, but I really want to talk about as well your journey through burnout and what it is that you are now really conscious of in your entrepreneurial and business journey to ensure that you don't go back there. But let's begin with a little bit of an overview of your business journey. And if you want to start from the start and give us the speed version, that'd be amazing.
I'll go the fast version. So you know what I've reflected on actually since really diving into entrepreneurial world is that I had my first business when I was in year 7 in high school because I used to make patchwork hats and sell them to other people. This was the 90s, everyone, when patchwork hats, which are probably about to come back. Yeah.
That is wild. Have you got photos of them and stuff still?
I don't think I do. Mum might at her house. But so there we go. So that was my first business, sewing and selling. I graduated uni in 2002, moved to WA, took over a role as an associate chiropractor. So that's working for someone else for 3 years, and took over a job from someone who then became my business partner 3 years later and started my half of our business. Then she'd been establishing her half sort of for the last 3 years, and was in practice with her in East Palmyra, East Freo for 10 years, a while. And then sold my half when I got married and pregnant, and we moved overseas to Asia for my husband's work. And then we moved back to Queensland after a period of time, and I started working from home, just, like an at-home beauty salon. It was at-home chiropractic, which was great because I had a toddler and then I was pregnant. And then, of course, I had my son and had all the endorphin rush of impending, I've just had a child and I'm amazing. And so I took a lease out on a shop and moved the practice from the back room of the house into a building. Of course I did, yeah. So I think I took that lease. He was born November. I signed the lease in January and opened the doors when he was about 16 weeks old after the fit out had been done. Yeah. But low overheads. So it was purposeful. It was low overheads. I didn't have to have people in my space. And at that point in time, I didn't have staff. So for me, I could control it pretty easily of how I worked and the way that I worked. So I would work short days. I would work pretty much school hours, 2 days a week. That's all. My mother-in-law had my son. She lived around the corner. So she'd either bring him in to get breastfed or I would pump while I returned phone messages, which is, if anyone listens from that time, that in the background, double breast pump. But it got pretty busy pretty quickly because we were in regional Queensland. There was no other female chiros in town at that time. And, so I got a staff member opened the doors February, staff member by June, July. And then started working a few more hours once George was sort of 2 anyway. and worked too much, 100%. Too many long days. I was in that hustle culture that I'd been taught back when I was in my early 20s. I set it up with a very masculine time frame. Like, I worked till 6, 2 nights a week. It was just stupid stuff, which you look back on now. But at the time, it worked. It had a great income. I was employing 2 other working mums on my front desk and support. It was perfect. But then it got to a point where I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I really hit the skids. And so I pulled in on hours initially. I went from 4 days to 3 days to 3 school hours days with 1 late afternoon sort of thing. So really changed that structure up. And and then I got an associate chiro in, and in there we moved back to Korea for 2 years. And the owner of the shop, he just said, "You pay me $1,000 and I will keep the shop for you." So I paid him $1,000 and he kept an empty shop for me for 2 years.
Wow.
He does like me. My son was also the same. His name was George, and my son's name is George. So there we go. So I was back there for 7 years. And then my associate had been there for 2.5 years by this stage, and we decided to move to Perth from central Queensland.
Mm-hmm.
So now I run that practice remotely from the West, which my phone, as I'm sitting here, is binging at me with messages from them, but I'm just ignoring the flooding and the electrical faults that are happening. And and that's going pretty well. It's definitely been a journey, but it is, around that. And within that time, I also had an online business, the Working Mama Reset. I wrote a book, The Work Mama Life, have a podcast. So there was lots of parts to that journey.
Absolutely. And Al, just for the listeners, what is your energy type in human design?
So I'm a manifestor. Yes. And I am a emotional solar plexus human. I like to really think about things. And I'm a 2/6.
Yeah. And I just find it absolutely fascinating that, when you reflect back on how it is that you started your practice in Queensland, and you were saying it was very masculine and I worked too much, like when you really start to understand the energy of a manifestor, like you are designed to work in surge and rest. And exactly. I'm just like, no wonder.
No wonder I got burnt out.
Exactly. Absolutely.
No wonder. And at the time, 2 young kids, and my husband was working 5 or 6 days a week, and he was out of the house for 12 to 14 hours a day. So, it was a lot.
And I think too, also, if we reflect back on that time of the world, there was this real hustle culture, and there was very limited other views of how you did business. And for women coming into the business world, I guess a lot of the role models were males, and they were in that masculine energy. And whilst we do need to have the masculine energy in the decision making and the directness, like we just, as you said, we set them up how we had seen them done before. And I know that is something you are so passionate about inside the disruptions. Yes.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is that it had worked for me before kids. So when I didn't have kids, I could do that because my practice was 5 blocks from my house. So even if I was in a rest phase, I would go to work and then I would go home and I would sleep for an hour and a half in my split lunch break. And then I would get up and I would go back to work. So I could honor those rest cycles if I needed to. Reflectively, at the time, I just was like, oh, I'm just tired today. And then now, looking forward at how I'm going to be working, it's really important to me that I set things up in a way that gives me the space to do what I need to do well.
Absolutely. And I just want to circle back to what you said just then about prior to kids and reflecting back, you were like, oh, I'd go home and I'd sleep for 90 minutes because I was really tired. But now you understand that is actually honoring the rest period of a manifestor. For those if you're listening to this, I want you to just take a moment and check in and see what come up for you when Allie said that she used to go home and sleep for 90 minutes during the day. Because I know there will be a lot of people that will be like, Oh my God, like, how could you do that? Like, that is so unproductive. Like, I would never do that, and I just think
I
that it's
still do that.
and so you should,
Yeah,
because
I
that is
love
really
it.
honoring, yeah, really honoring your, manifestor energy, so I love that. Um, I also love that your business journey started when you were in year 7. I think
I
that's
know. You know, I only really thought about that recently, and I was like, "Yeah, actually, I used to make money selling hats." Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
yeah,
wild.
it is
And
wild.
fun fact about Ali and I, we met, about 4 years ago,
Yeah,
and met in real life 2 and a bit years ago, in, at Ayers Rock, yes,
yep.
at Uluru, and even more wild is that we worked out that we went to the same primary school
I
for a
know.
period of time. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
absolutely
so crazy. It's so crazy. And I remember you, like I remember you in your brown bob, and
yeah,
yeah, it's funny.
isn't that just yeah, and I
Yep.
side note, I was older than Ali, however, when we first met also though, we had similar hair.
Yes, we
Like,
did.
we both had the faux
Yeah.
hawk, and mine was blonde and all of the things. So,
Yeah.
anyway, just a little fun fact sideline there. I'd love you to share a little bit with the listeners, Al, about your book and what
Yeah.
is the basis of your book, and
Yeah.
I'd love to, yeah, unpack that.
So the book really came out of my desire to serve working mums. So I really started in sort of the journey away from being just a chiropractor in inverted commas, where I would often speak at conferences, and I was one of the first peds chiros in Australia. So, you know, it was a special sort of chiro that we do. But I just had this pull and desire to do more.
Mhm.
And I met Tina Tower, who was how I met Cal,
Mm,
and she just planted this seed about, well, who do you love working with most? And I was like, definitely working mums, because I can relate so much to them. So I
yes.
created the Working Mama Reset course, which was, and it's still available. People still just get on and buy it for themselves. Um, and out of the back of that, I was approached by a publishing house to write a book, Work Mama Life. And that is a reflection on how I recovered from my burnout, which was pretty extreme, and then the things that you do now in your lifestyle to support your health, your
Yes.
well-being, find your joy, bring the playfulness back so that your energy is aligned with what you do. And so that book is still, yeah, still in shops, and yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah.
Yes, I do love that. And can I just always put a side note here is that I just find people that write books, I just find it absolutely like one of those things I'm just like, "My God, you've written a book." You're like, "You've
Yeah,
written a book and you've published the book and you can go into a shop and you can see your book." I find it absolutely
it's
wild.
pretty nuts. It is
Ah,
pretty
I
nuts.
do.
Yeah.
I've got more like probably more people than I ever thought I would in my life that have written books. And I
It
just find it
yeah.
wild. I just think it is just one of the most greatest accomplishments. I truly do. So,
Yeah.
congratulations on that. I love yeah, I just find it fascinating. Um, Ali, the term burnout, I
Mm.
think, is really a word that is used a lot
Yeah.
out there. I think it's a word that is used in a lot of marketing,
Yes.
for
100%.
different things. And I also love about you is that you have like you're the real sciencey neuro nerd.
I
You got
love brains.
you love brains, you use all the big words, and I have to be like, okay, I don't know what that means. Could we can we
Yep.
tone it down? Can we bring it back so I
Bring
can
it to real speak.
And so I just want to kind of shine a light on the fact that you have experienced burnout and you said it was quite extreme.
Mm,
But let's unpack what that truly looks like because if we've got someone listening that is, a woman
yeah.
in business and they are hearing and seeing all this about burnout and how do you or is there a definition or is there real symptoms that truly mean that you are in I'm
Yeah.
assuming adrenal burnout?
Yeah. Yeah. So mine was definitely the cortisol measurements indicated that I should have had a metabolic disease called Addison's, like it was at a level of disease worthy, but we didn't name it that, and we've healed that. So that was really great. But burnout definitely has symptoms. So you can be tired and you can need a break. And that is definitely on the ramp up towards Burnoutville. For me, my burnout was the end of some very high stress family time combined with business and kids. And I got, and it started with my son giving me one of those big, vigorous hug cuddles where they jump up into your arms. And he headbutted me under my chin, which threw my head back really sharply. And I immediately started getting weird facial things. And I was like, well, I'll just go get adjusted. And I got adjusted and it didn't go away. And normally, I was like, I'll just sort this out. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And it felt like I had a beard on my face and my face was red. So the redness is a sign of sympathetic dominance. The paresthesia is a sign from your brain, which is that beard sensation or weird sensations that things aren't feeling well. But I could get these paresthesia spots, so these feelings of intense burning / weird tingling anywhere on my body, and they would come and go. And then the redness happened, and then I gained 10 kilos in 3 months. And I hadn't changed anything. And I was waking up every night between 2 and 4 a.m. My brain was going. I couldn't calm it down. Meditation, like all of my normal things weren't working.
Yeah.
So I immediately thought I had a brain tumor, a pituitary tumor, because of the weight gain and the facial paresthesia, or multiple sclerosis, because they're the two things that would give those sorts of signs.
Yeah, okay.
And so I went into my GP and we had a big cry, and then we went and did all the testing and none of that came back. So then she's like, okay, what about this? And so then we did all our Dutch hormone testing and stuff, and that's where we figured out it was burnout coupled with some thyroid problems as well. And and a parasite. So we healed, did all of the work, took a good 6 months to really settle down. Lost the weight, but I still couldn't exercise. And it has taken me, it's now 5 years since that happened. And now is the first time in 5 years that I can exercise heavily every day and not die in the corner for 2 days afterwards. So, yeah, the adrenal impact of that is that often people in burnout will go, yeah, I'm going to go and lift heavy things and run 10Ks. And then that burns their system out. It's too much input. And their brain goes, you can't do that anymore. And it puts you in the toilet. So, so that's how, like, you can really see the improvement of it. But it is something that you don't want to mess around with either. Like, if you're feeling that your body isn't responding in the way it normally could. Also, I'm 44, nearly 45. So there's a hormonal shift that happens around 40 as well. Yes. There's lots of different factors, but finding someone who will actually look at all of that for you, I think, is really important, and will listen to what you're saying and not just fob you off as a crazy human.
Thank you. I was just about to say, because I feel like it is so important to find that person that you know is really going to listen and hear what you're sharing.
Yeah.
And be responsive of not the quick fix, the Band-Aid, here, have this, send you away. Like, it's about, like, it sounds like your GP was
exceptional.
On the front foot. Yeah, exceptional.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I actually miss her living, like, you'd think moving to a city you would have more options. Well, I haven't found that yet here. So, she was great.
Al, what are some of the, whether or not they're daily, they're weekly, or just perhaps the conscious practices that you have in your schedule? Because, if we break it back down again, you are running a chiropractic practice that is on the other side of the country.
Yes.
You're also doing your, coaching.
Membership.
Yep. You've got your coaching. Membership. You're doing bespoke coaching. You're also, like, now doing business strategy. You're still a mum, like all.
I still work as a chiro here a couple of shifts a week.
Correct. And also, not to mention that you've actually picked up your entire life, moved to the other country, and like the other side of the country, and then
have been obviously putting your roots down in a new place, which I know is familiar to you because you've been
Yes.
there before. But what are those things that you lean on,
Mm.
and kind of even maybe what are the things that you check in with yourself to ensure that you're not heading down that
Going
path?
down that path.
Yeah.
So the big one for me is sleep. So
Okay.
my kids don't like to sleep a great amount. So my son does. My daughter, on the other hand, really doesn't enjoy sleeping.
Okay.
And but for me, if I'm getting up at the moment, my alarm goes at 4:40 in the morning, so I can get to the gym to make my day work,
Mhm.
which I would never have been able to do, I think, until this year.
Mhm.
Um, I need to be in bed by 9. Like, I cannot push that envelope. If I push that consistently, even for a conference where I fly interstate and I'm going to bed at 10:30 every night, I'm ruined for that next week. I already know that the intensity of things that I am going to need to do are going to decrease. I really do be mindful of what I eat.
Yes.
I cannot live on carbs alone. Like, I'm a celiac anyway, but
Mhm.
pushing that envelope is not good. And my Ayurvedic sign is warm food. So I will choose soup over a salad every day of the week.
Yes.
So I need to just be aware of that. And I need to feel connected to people. And, I think a
Yeah.
big part of my healing here is that I feel like I've definitely got my tribe of core people around me, which
Yes.
allows me to ground regularly and to express emotion, and that is really, really important to me in my healing journey, because, as you know, if we hold everything inside, it's got to come out somewhere. I'm
Absolutely.
back in touch with my awesome kinesiologist. She does Reiki. I have, like, my best friends. We sauna, we ice bath, we move our bodies. We've got these practices that we do that enable all of us to show up in service to other people, but more importantly, feel connected to ourselves as well. I think that's actually the biggest thing.
Yeah, I love that. And so there's so much in what you just shared. I think that there is something for everyone to pull from that and say, well, maybe I will just really focus on the sleep and I really want to
Yeah.
focus on the bedtime, or, just really acknowledging and being conscious of your own patterns. Like, as you said,
Mm.
if I'm in bed late,
Yeah.
I
I'm
know that,
done.
yeah, you're done. And so I just think that that's such fantastic awareness.
And I love party. Like, I love a party. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
invite me to something and I will be there, but I can't do that every night of the week anymore. Like,
No.
not happening. Not
Not
happening.
having it. And I think this is one of the things that I loved so much when I did your human design reading, being a 6-2, like that sixth line profile where you have the three different phases of life. And we were
Yeah.
talking about the 0 to 30 years of age, where you basically emulate the third line, which is all about
Yeah.
experience and experimenting and, just trial and error and having life bump into you and you bump into life and doing just a whole range of different things
Yeah.
with knowing there is no failure, just discovery. And you
Yeah.
were like, oh my God, yes. Like, you have
100%.
lived in different countries and done all of the things. And, I
Yeah.
think we shared in that human design reading, like the things that change, like how you could go out and be partying and get home in the wee hours of the morning and then just
Oh,
rock back up and show up.
yep. And you'd be like, ping, I'm fine. Literally, you're partying with the lead acts from the big day out, and then you turn up at practice 4 hours later, and you can do that.
Oh, what a wild time it is when you're young, before kids
Oh,
and
I know, right?
responsibility and all of the things.
Yeah.
Um, Al, I'd love you to share with the listeners a little bit more about the Health Business Institute and the Disruption Society. I had the absolute pleasure of speaking and presenting to your members on Wednesday. Just side note, fucking love the name Disruption Society. Like,
I
let's
know,
I
right?
just think it
So
is.
good. Yeah.
It's so good. I also think it's so Manifestor. Like, it's just like, fuck it, I'm going to call it that. Like, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're doing here.
Because we are shaking shit up.
Correct. But like, share with us a little bit more about, what it is, who it's for, I guess why you were called to create it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I was running the Working Mama Reset for working mums. And it got to a point where I was feeling like the women that I served the best in there were health professional women that were coming in. But I really, like, yes, I needed to give them the solid information about their health and that kind of thing. But the stuff that was making a bigger difference to them was, well, how do you set your life up so that it doesn't keep happening all the time?
Yeah.
And the strategies in the back end. And I realized that really what I love doing is helping female business owners strategize things, and particularly chiros, so that they don't get burnt out. Like, how can we make it feminine and not masculine, basically? And there is so much. We've got 55% females now coming through our universities as chiropractors. So we're getting this huge shift and turn in from this male dominant industry to a very heavy female dominant industry, which is brilliant. But we don't have any, like you said earlier, we don't have any people to look at to say, well, this is how we can set our life up so it works for us without going broke, or having a husband that earns $1 squillion a year so that we can just, do it on the side. How can we do it for ourselves? So the Disruption Society came from me wanting to disrupt the norm of health business ownership and how we can make it, design it for ourselves, and how we can use the technology at our fingertips, how we can harness AI, how we can use our team effectively, our time effectively, so that we're not sitting on the couch with our mental load going all the time, impacting our sleep and all of that kind of stuff. And the Health Business Institute is all of the information. So I think we've got everything in there. So basically, these gorgeous women join the membership and we get guest experts in to share, which is great. And we do a marketing AI significant thing in the first week of the month to help set our month up for the month ahead. And then we do group coaching in there, but they get access to everything they need to run a business, templates and financials and business plans and hiring and firing and how job descriptions and training, like all that kind of stuff as well. So all the boring stuff that you don't want to create is there as well to decrease their mental load too. So it's totally awesome. I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. I love that. And I think something that I've heard you say a lot, which I think is really representative of what the Disruption Society is to support women that are in health practices to create a values-driven practice.
Yep. And it's all about their value system. So first thing we do an onboarding month pretty much with everyone when we open the doors, which we do at the end of August actually. And they get to come in and we dive into values first. And everyone goes, oh, I know my values. I'm like, yeah, but let's just do it again. Let's do it fresh. Let's see where you're at. And then we put that into our vision model and what that looks like and design it ideally and then work back from there. I love the reverse engineering concept of things. Like, let's figure out where we want to be and bring it back to the start and go that way.
Absolutely.
And, it's key.
And that's just like music to my ears, right? Because that is, so much of what I stand for as well. Like, I think for, women in business, it's, strategy is super valuable, of course.
Yeah.
But an aligned strategy to your values, your vision, your purpose, and your priorities based on the season of life you're in.
Absolutely.
Is most important. Because, there's no point following someone else's strategy because, one, you're either going to end up not where you want it to be, as you said, having that end goal and reverse engineering, or you won't follow the strategy. And you'll wonder why you're feeling like you're, spinning your wheels or stagnant,
not getting
results because it's not your strategy. So I absolutely love all of that. So on that, you said doors are opening to Disruption Society at the end of August.
Yes.
So when this podcast will be released will actually be the 22nd of August. So we'll be close
perfect.
We'll be close to doors opening. So
sweeto.
We'll make sure that we've got all of the information in the show notes so that
Yeah,
if
great.
someone is, you know, a chiropractor and looking for that support, then
Yeah,
Disruption Society is it.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And you know what's really good about this is like moving away from practice where I had to be in the building all the time. And now, because I've really, thanks to you, Cal, figured out where my human design energy fits, I'm creating time frames that give me space, which
Yes.
is just so important. And you can still show up and serve. And I think I serve so much better when I don't have these hardcore strict parameters about this is the one day where I am going to do this every week. That actually doesn't work for me. And
Without question.
yeah,
Absolutely. Like that is like it's vital for
yeah.
you as a manifestor.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And it's just really, I think, fortunate that I get to now design that and help other people figure out, well, this is what we want to design too.
Absolutely. And like
Mm.
for you, it's really honoring that surge and rest and knowing that when you're in a surge, you'll bring shit to life super quick.
Yeah,
Like, you're just like, "You're
absolutely.
on," you know, like, I can remember when you were coming up with the Disruption Society and you're like, "Anyway, so I'm gonna launch." Might have been like you might have been sharing with us in our
Yeah.
mastermind. You were like, "I'm launching on Friday, and I'm just gonna whip together a quick landing page," and I was just like, "Okay, manifestor, here she goes. She's just revving the engine."
Yep.
And, you know,
Done.
I think the beautiful thing is that for you, that just feels completely natural,
Yeah.
right? For someone like me that is a pure generator, I need that time to build up and create that excitement and really get that magnetism of the sacral going.
Yeah.
But just and you know, it was a success because you were just in your surge and you were just like,
Yeah.
here we go, all
And
for it.
it's so interesting. Like I knew that I was going to open the doors at some stage soon, but it's
Yes,
taken I couldn't put a finger on the when it would actually happen because I need to make sure it's the right time.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Like
And
I
that
can't plan a year in advance of when I'm opening and closing things. That doesn't work for me. I
it
actually
does
have
not.
to go, oh, no, this is a really perfect time to do that. Bang, do it then. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's where like the value comes from understanding your human design and you
Yeah.
even understanding that because that looks very different to how a lot of other people do a doors open, doors
Yeah.
closed or a live launch formula
Yeah.
because you just can't. You cannot plan.
No.
And equally, you know, having anything that is too consistent in your schedule where you
Boring.
have to show up, you'll be like,
Yeah.
snoozeville, like,
Yep.
you know, what a way to send a
It's
manifestor into their not self-theme of anger is by telling them they have to do something
Oh, and you
all
know, it is so hilarious because my husband's like, well, you could just go back and do like more clinic shifts at your old practice, which is where I'm going back. And I am going to do some. And he's like, only 4 a week? I'm like, that's enough. 4 half days. I'm done. Poof. That's
abs
perfect. Yeah.
absolutely,
And
yes.
2 of them are real short.
Yeah. And I just love that, you know, the awareness around that, but, you know, experience for you too, right? I mean, you've been
Yeah.
a chiro for almost 22 years. You've lived and learned.
Yeah.
Again, going back to that
Mm.
emulating of that third line in that first 30 years,
Yeah.
like you and to be able to also know, even if people in your disruption society aren't aware of their human design,
Mm.
you're very aware of yours. So you will just bring that element into your coaching with them to
Yeah.
guide them. Well, maybe you need to determine and find that out to support.
They've all
Yeah.
done their human design. It's one of
Yeah.
the things that we do in our intro so that we can, and I always say to them, look, I don't know everything about all the things, but if we know it, we can research it and we can figure it
Abs-
out and we can speak to
absolutely.
Cal.
Yes, yes. You can book a reading with me.
Book a
But,
reading with Cal. She'll tell
you
you
know,
everything you need to know.
it's interesting because also you're a solar plexus, you're an emotional
Mm.
manifestor. So can I ask if you're aware, and I'm sure you would be, is how long did it take for you to land in the emotional clarity that the Disruption Society and the Health Business Institute was the next step?
Mm. More than the month that it would So big decisions for me, which I
Yes.
always put down to being a Libran and not being able to make my mind up because I'm such a people pleaser and I'm wanting to do the right thing by everyone in my circle. And there's definitely an element of that. But now that I understand that it's actually not me wanting to do everything right by them, it's me wanting to do what's right for me, but I have to figure out what is right for me. So small decisions, I can whap them out now. But yeah, I reckon I sat on the concept of it for probably 2 months before I
Yeah.
really landed exactly what I wanted it to feel like.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, because I've done lots of readings now, and when human design is new to people and they find out they're an emotional authority, which is their decision-making process, one of the questions that they either ask or I know they would like to ask is, how long's my emotional wave? And there is
Yes.
no answer, right? Like
No.
everyone's different, and it's that's the experiment. It's the
Yeah.
conscious awareness of, I'm in my wave. How long is it going to last? And the bigger the decision, generally, the longer the wave, of course.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I just, the only thing that you can really do is just be consciously aware that the decisions going through the wave,
Yeah.
you're not in the wave. And
Yes.
I love that you just said before, I was indecisive and I couldn't make decisions.
Yeah.
That up and down nature for an emotional authority is exactly the what you're meant to progress through to land in the emotional
Decision.
clarity, right? And the
Yeah.
decision. And I just, yeah, it's one of those things. So even honoring the beautiful women inside the Disruption Society, understanding their decision making and how
Yes.
you all make it differently, I would think is super valuable, as is if they are running a practice or a team,
Yep.
understanding how their team makes decisions as
Yes.
well.
Absolutely. And we've all done it at my team as well. And it's interesting how you can pick it, like you can pick it a bit now. Like
Yes.
who's a generator, who's a projector. Um,
And I think too, once you've got insight, you're like, oh, that's why you
that's
do
why
that.
that,
Or
yep.
that's why that's important to you, or, those sorts of things.
Yep. And I
Um,
live with two generators and a reflector. And so
oh my
it
gosh,
is
the reflector. Who's the reflector?
my daughter.
1% of the population.
I know,
Like
right?
she's the non-sleeper.
Yeah. Because her brain is just busy. Her brain is busy just processing. So
And
we do a
she's a
lot
lunar
of,
cycle, so it's all
yeah.
moon. Yeah,
She is
wow.
the most, and interesting, you know how everyone always says kids don't sleep on full moons. I call bullshit. She sleeps like an absolute jet at a full moon. New moons, where things are new,
You.
and that is her energy. I will just sleep in bed with her because I just know she'll wake a few times in the night, and it's just easier to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will be honest, I know the least amount
Yeah.
about reflectors because I've never read for a reflector, and they
Yeah.
are very rare. So that's
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating. And,
It's
great awareness
interesting.
too. Yes, so interesting.
Oh, and it's interesting to watch how she converses with people. So she
Yes.
used to be really shy. She would say that she's shy, but she's not shy at all. She actually is very aware of who she is, but she sometimes has to get to a point where she's reflected on, yeah, this person is a safe person for me to
Yes.
share that. Yeah, which is really
Yes.
cool.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exciting. And then you being around also 2 generators, right? So they have
Yeah.
access to that sacral energy. They can be very
Yep.
consistent beings. They have the big motor if they
They
choose.
just go.
They can go. And I'm a generator as well. It was interesting when you were talking about creating your schedule and your routine, and really formulating this new online business
Mm,
space for you in a way that feels really spacious. I was reflecting because what I've noticed about myself lately is that, yes, I have a huge capacity to work because I am a generator.
yeah.
However, I want and am creating more spaciousness in my schedule to do the things that just bring me joy for no other reason and no
Than
outcome.
working.
Correct.
Yes.
Because I love what I do, right?
Yeah.
But it's important for generators to really like honor that sacral and just do things out of pure joy for no other reason, that's not attached to anything that's
Yeah.
creative, So it's interesting. You're creating spaciousness to really honor that surge, rest.
Yeah.
I'm creating spaciousness to be able to do the things that just light me up and bring me
Yeah.
joy and satisfaction.
Yeah. And it's true. And I reckon as you go into different ages and stages of your journey, you learn about it, but the human design stuff just gives a deeper understanding and knowing of why you might be feeling like that too.
Yes. And
Yeah.
my mentor, Kirsten, she just says it's a permission slip. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is
Yeah.
to permission slip to lean into, oh, that is that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind
Yeah.
of like,
This
okay,
is good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
all over it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Al, I just want to touch on, you said before about AI, and
Yeah.
you know, like
Mm.
what a wild world.
Wild.
Like I just shared on my Instagram story today. It's absolutely nothing, but we did a quick dinner, me and my two girls last night at a sushi train type
Yeah.
situation. And they have the little robot that comes around the top and it
Yes.
lifts up and you get your food out. And
Yeah.
we're all sitting there recording it because we just think it's hilarious. And a month ago I went to Sydney with Shez for a planning weekend, and they had the robots that come and you put your dirty dishes on and they take them
Yep.
out to the
They're
kitchen.
the best.
It's just wild. Like, it's absolutely wild. And I mean, they're the things that we can see, right?
Oh,
That a
and
visual
there's
of the AI.
so much out there.
Yes.
So much out there. And it scares me how much is out there. But I also know that we need to embrace it, because if we don't, we'll be behind the 8 ball.
Absolutely. So
100%.
what are the elements that you're teaching
Mm.
the members of the Disruption Society in that health business perspective?
Yeah.
Where are you leaning into AI?
Yeah, so the AI points we lean into are all of the content management for marketing.
Mhm.
So, to stay relevant in your community, you have to be showing up in your community. But if you're running a business sometimes and you've got family, it's really hard to have that consistency. So we spend a lot of time creating bots on ChatGPT
Yes.
to support our marketing endeavors, and training our staff on how to use them so that it's completely out of your hands.
Yes.
Which is really good. And then now we're diving into AI from a patient notes perspective, and we're trialing, trialing how we use it that way too. And then we are starting to figure out how we can do project management with AI, but that we still haven't dived into greatly yet, but that's sort of our next thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's very cool. And I guess there's a whole element for you in that health industry of, ensuring that confidentiality and security and all of the notes of personal information is secure and whatnot as well.
So a platform like Otter, I wouldn't use to scribe patient notes because I don't think it's secure enough. But there are actually platforms designed for note taking, which will transcribe things and put it in the correct parts that you need as well.
Yes.
So it's pretty exciting times. And if we can decrease that, awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Like, because, I guess this is a lot of people get into the industry they're in out of passion and love and wanting to have an impact. And obviously what you do in the health industry, you're hands-on. It is that skill that you have developed and learnt and all of the things. But then when your time is taken up with paperwork and admin and
kill,
poke
my eyeballs out.
Just went,
the other thing that I reckon that's really good, and some people harness it really well, is setting up automations in the back end of your health business so that anything that can be automated is automated, because that decreases the time you're paying admin staff to do menial tasks that they don't need to do. And just getting the patient satisfaction, because they expect a high touch point. Post-COVID, people want a personalized level of individual care. And we need to make sure that we are doing that in a way that doesn't burn us out. Like we want to do that. And when we're with people in a room, of course, that's what happens. But how can we embody a personalized level of care when they are not with us? What would that look and feel like? So
Absolutely.
Going on a journey of ideal touch points, ideal creation within your practice, outside of your practice, what does that actually look and feel like? And how can we set things up so you don't have to do too much of that, I think is where it's really at.
I love automations, and I'm very passionate about having an exceptional client journey.
Yes.
That is part of my gifts in my human design chart, is that perfecting things. And, I can very quickly experience firsthand or look at it, and I just think, oh, that is clunky. That's like, we could really, refinement is a huge gift of mine. And so I love what you said. The other benefit of automations for you too is that manifestor energy, is that, consistency is not always going to be there, right? But you want to be nurturing your people, your community. And so having things set up where people can get what they need from you, if you're in a rest period and you're off, they can still go and access
the things
of, the podcast or the book or the course or the content in the Health Business Institute. That's all set up beautifully for your energy,
and they
can
just and it's just vital, I think, because I want to do this. I love what I do. I love being hands-on with people. I certainly couldn't be in the hours that I used to do it, because my energy reserves are taken up in other places now. And I think, but I can do that online. There is so much longevity in this if we do it properly. 100%. And I think that's key.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Well, Al, I mean, we could sit here and talk all day.
We absolutely could.
We've also got children and other things. And all of that. But I just want to thank you so much for coming in. We had no idea what we were going to talk about. We just knew it was going to be totally fine, which it always is.
Always is. Thank you, universe.
Yes, for sure. Please check out the show notes. I'm going to have all of Allie's details in there, her Instagram, but links to the Disruption Society, which by the time this podcast goes out, doors will be opening soon. So if you are a female chiropractor with your own practice and you're needing support, Allie's your person. But thank you so much, Al. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Thanks, Al. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Aligned with Kel Quarrel. I hope our conversations have inspired you to be bold in the pursuit of your dreams. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with the business women in your life and took the time to leave a review. Your feedback is like an ice-cold glass of Prosecco, always welcomed and always appreciated. You might even consider giving the show a follow. Until next time, continue to take bold action towards aligning your business with your deepest desires.